Hello, Awana Clubbers! Mrs. Kaysen here with Jace, Jansen, and Jaden. We hope you're doing well. I know we're all stranded at home right now and we can't see each other, which is really sad because we miss you, like a lot. But I know it won't be long and we'll be able to see each other soon. So, we just started a new month. It's April 1st, and do you know what usually happens in April? Easter! That's right. So I thought for the next couple weeks we can talk about the Easter story. Now I know a lot of you know the Easter story already, but I want you to listen in because you might learn something new. Everything I'm going to tell you is coming straight from the Bible, so you can trust it to be true. In fact, you can read it yourself. The Easter story is found in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, which is easy to remember because it's the first 4 books in the New Testament. So but before we do our story, we have a game. I have 3 code words that I've hidden in my story that I want to see if you can find. Our code words are donkey, temple, and fruit. Donkey, temple, and fruit. So if you can find those code words in my story, I want you to tell me, okay? So our story begins 2,000 years ago. About this time, the Jewish people were celebrating a festival called the Passover, which had been celebrated since the time of Moses when God brought his people out of Egypt. So Jesus and his disciples were going to Jerusalem for this Passover feast. But before they got there, Jesus told 2 of his disciples to go ahead of them and to go to a certain village, and in that village they would find a donkey tied up. He said, I want you to go get that donkey and bring it to me, and if anyone asks, just say I need him. So the disciples were very obedient, and so they did what Jesus said. They went to the village, they found the donkey that was tied up, they started untying him, and sure enough, a guy that was there was saying, what are you doing? And they said, Jesus needs this donkey. So the guy said, oh, okay, you can have him. So they gave him the donkey and they brought it back to Jesus, and Jesus sat on the donkey. And they were starting to go into Jerusalem. Well, the people in Jerusalem heard that Jesus was coming, and they got so excited. They started running around, chopping off branches, palm branches, getting their coats ready because they were running to go see him. But do you know who else found out that Jesus was coming? The Pharisees, the chief priests, the scribes of the city. Now, these guys were the religious leaders. They did not really like Jesus because Jesus had become very popular. And they wanted to be the popular ones. They wanted to be the ones that were giving all the advice to people, the religious advice to people. So they did not like Jesus. In fact, they were jealous of Jesus. So jealous that they wanted to kill Jesus. But they knew that this wasn't the time. Everyone was getting excited and they knew the people would get mad if they did anything now. So they had to wait. So they were waiting, but they heard that Jesus was coming, so they went too. And so Jesus started coming into Jerusalem. So everyone started putting out palm branches on the ground. They threw down their coats. They were shouting and singing Hosanna. And the Pharisees heard this and they told Jesus, you need to stop those people from yelling. You need to stop that, Jesus. And Jesus said, if I tell them to stop, even the rocks will cry out. So they continued to sing praises to Jesus as he rode into Jerusalem. Well, where was Jesus going as he rode into Jerusalem? He was going to the temple. Now, the temple is a place to worship the Lord. But when he got to the temple, nobody was there really worshiping the Lord. What he saw were people there that were selling things for profit. They were trying to cheat people out of their money. They were using God to fill up their own pockets. So do you know what Jesus did? He went to them and he started pushing things over. He grabbed their stuff and he started, he grabbed their stuff and he started throwing a dinosaur. What's this dinosaur doing? Get him out of here. So he started flipping tables. He started pushing things out of the way. He said, no, what are you doing? This is my Father's house. You don't do this in my Father's house. You've made this into a den of thieves. This is a house of prayer. So he drove those people out of the temple. And after he drove those people out of the temple, after they were gone, some people started coming in. Probably people that couldn't have gotten in before, like the blind and the lame. And you know what Jesus did for them? He healed them. He started healing all the blind people that were coming in and the lame people that probably couldn't have gotten in before because of all the money seekers were there. The Bible calls them money changers. And so he started healing them, and he did this all day long. And guess what? It made the Pharisees even madder. They were so mad, but they knew they couldn't do anything now. They had to wait for their chance. So he started doing that. Well, that night, him and Jesus and his disciples, they didn't stay in Jerusalem. They actually stayed in a city just outside of Jerusalem called Bethany. It was about a two-mile hike to there, to rest and to sleep for the night. Well, the next morning they woke up and they were very hungry. So they were starting to go back to Jerusalem. But on the way back to Jerusalem, they saw a fig tree. Well, perfect. Figs, they can eat figs for breakfast. But as they got closer to it, they noticed there was no fruit on this tree. Which is strange. It's a fig tree. Fig trees should have figs on them. But it had no fruit. And you know what Jesus did? He cursed the tree. And he said, "No fruit will ever grow on you again." And immediately, that tree withered away. Immediately. Now, have you ever seen a flower, or has your mom ever gotten flowers for maybe Mother's Day or her birthday, and they're beautiful, they put them on the table, but eventually they start withering and dying, right? They start getting brown. Well, this tree, it did it immediately. It turned brown and it withered away really fast. And the disciples were like, "Whoa, did you see that? Did you see what Jesus did? That's amazing." That's kind of like our lives. That fig tree is like our lives. We as Christians, we're supposed to have fruit too. So Jesus cursed that fig tree. So the next part of our story, he went back to the temple in the morning. They didn't have breakfast because the fig tree didn't have any fruit. He went back to the temple, and there was a lot of people there waiting for him because they were excited to see Jesus and hear his teaching. So right when he got to the temple, he started preaching and teaching. And yes, you guessed it, the Pharisees were very angry. They were waiting too. The chief priests and the scribes, the religious leaders, they were there. And they had all night to think about their plan. And they did. They came up with a plan. So next time, I'm going to tell you what their plan was, okay? But I want to know, did you find all the 3 code words in our story?
Yes.
Did you find it? Donkey, temple, and fruit?
Yes.
Did you hear it? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, I hope you guys heard it too. If you have any questions about today's story, I want you to tell your parents to email me those questions, and I'll try to answer those questions in my next video. But until next time, I want you to stay safe, wash your hands, and continue spreading joy. Okay? We love you, Awana Clubbers. Bye!
Bye!